What is up, guys, and welcome back to our end of the year ranking series. And today we have arrived at what usually ends up being everybody's favorite video for whatever reason. My top 10 worst movies of 2024. Now, looking at the list of films that I saw last year, all 130 of them, overall, the average was pretty good. I would give a positive review to, I think, 75 out of the 130, and really it was only maybe the top 15 to 20 that I was really harsh on. So this was overall pretty good year for movies, but like any other year, there's always some stinkers. There's always ones that are massively disappointing. There's always one or two movies that just insult you down to your core. And so I have arranged the 10 movies that, for a variety of reasons, angered me, frustrated me, or depressed me as a movie fan the most in 2024. Be sure to let me know what your 10 least favorite films of the last year is down in the comment section below. And with that being said, let's kick this bitch off with number 10. And number 10 for me, I kind of tossed around about 4 or 5 different movies into this slot because my bottom 7 or 8 were pretty solid. And then I had 2 slots where I'm like, damn, there's like at least 7 movies that could fit very comfortably that are worthy of being mentioned along the worst of this year. But I landed on my number 10 being Megalopolis. This is the latest Francis Ford Coppola film that I just don't really even know how to describe what this thing is. Now, the only reason why it is at number 10 and not lower on this list, even though there's probably a few movies on this list that I would be more entertained rewatching than Megalopolis, is that at least Francis Ford Coppola put his money where his mouth is. This is not one of the situations, one of which we're going to be talking about here in a little bit, where a studio just dumps hundreds of millions of dollars and puts it out there and expects everybody to get duped by the marketing and go give them a return of profit. This is literally just something that was a Francis Ford Coppola passion project that he sold his own winery and gathered his own funds to make this film and put it out. And I don't think he really gave much of a fuck who liked it, who went to go see it, how successful it was. This was something that he just did for him. So I respect that. But with that aside, I don't know why the fuck he did that. I don't know why you would sell anything to make this movie. I don't understand the point of it. You have a lot of great actors in here. The only one of which that kind of felt like they knew what movie they were in is Aubrey Plaza and maybe Shia LaBeouf. But you have this weird concept of like this future where you have Adam Driver wants to use this element to create like this utopian future, this city that's going to be like the symbol of hope, and it's like 3 hours of just nonsense. I'm sorry. Like I'm kind of grasping at trying to even figure out how to describe this movie. It's got so many different weird things. It's like a futuristic movie, yet it's like the old like Roman Empire in a lot of ways. And you have really wacky and weird performances. You've got a point where Adam Driver gets his eye shot out and they replace it with this element and it turns into like this little like specter looking thing. I don't know. As I said earlier, the only people that felt like they kind of knew what bizarre-ass movie they were making were the only 2 characters that I enjoyed watching. Aubrey Plaza, I thought, was very entertaining in this for the bit that she was in. But this was just me sitting here just like, huh? For about 3 hours. So as I said, all the respect in the world to Coppola for funding his own passion project and not expecting a studio to do it. And I totally understand why any studio that looked at this said, are you out of your fucking mind? I'm not giving you $1 for this. But I did not enjoy it whatsoever. So being honest with that, it is absolutely one of the 10 worst films that I saw in 2024. Now, while all of us wish we could protect ourselves from the experience of watching a bad movie, it is much more important nowadays to protect yourself from identity theft. So do so by checking out the sponsor of today's video, Aura. 2024 saw a number of high-profile data breaches from massive names like Dell, United Health, and Ticketmaster. Most alarming of all, just a few months ago, the National Public Data announced that they had a data breach that could potentially affect every single American. Nearly 3 billion records used for background checks that include full names, addresses, dates of birth, phone numbers, and even social security numbers. And you guessed it, the hackers released all of this sensitive information online for free. So needless to say, we're all more vulnerable than ever, but luckily the sponsor of today's video, Aura is here to help. Aura monitors your personal data across billions of data points like the dark web and public court records to keep you alerted about potential identity theft. They even provide up to $5 million in identity theft insurance just in case the worst happens. Aura also offers a variety of other features like real-time data breach alerts, a VPN for safe browsing, a password manager, and they'll even submit opt-out requests to the data brokers leaking your personal information. Legally, these data brokers do have to erase your information if you request them to do so, but they make it extremely difficult for you to do that. So just offload that hard work onto Aura. I value my privacy, and if you value yours, you can go to aura.com/Cody Leach or click the link in the video description to start your 2-week free trial of Aura today. And thank you so much to Aura for sponsoring today's video. Coming in at number 9 is a movie that probably 99.9% of you watching this didn't even know existed and certainly didn't waste your time watching it, and that is Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. This is a remake that when they dropped the trailer, everybody thought this was like an SNL skit or something. They're like, this can't be real, right? Like, I've never heard that this was in production, and this is just so horrible. This can't be a reality. No, it was a reality. This is a BET original film that was released in theaters, and I was one of the 5 people in the United States of America that decided to go check this out, only because I adore the original. My daughter adores the original, so I just took her to go see this, and yeah, I mean, it's everything that you expect it to be when you think a BET original remake of Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. You have all the characters are race swapped. You have basically the entire movie is all racial humor that perhaps I am just not the type of person that's going to get into it, but it all was just very off-putting to me. You have a whole situation where, like the original, you have the babysitter that dies and they don't want to tell anybody because they know that their mom is going to be called and that's going to ruin their summer vacation. And here, they don't want to tell anybody because they think that the cops are going to come to their house and shoot all of them because they're black and the old lady was white. And it's like, if that was supposed to be funny, it wasn't. And if that was supposed to be serious social commentary, wrong movie and wrong situation to package that. You get beyond that and it's everything from the original in a much shittier package. I mean, you have Kenny here who doesn't go through any actual journey of self-realization or any kind of maturity. He just starts cooking because that's what the guy in the original movie did. You have, of course, a couple of cameos in here that's just like, why are you guys giving legitimacy to this? You have Daniel Harris that shows up for 2 seconds. You have the original Rose that pops up. Rose, by the way, played by Nicole Richie. Why? And so, whereas the original is, at least to me, an absolute 90s classic, that's a really good story of coming of age, of kids maturing, of them, realizing what little shits that they are and having to live off of their own devices for 3 months teaches them what the real world is like. You just miss all of that here. Like, none of that lands. None of that is a part of this story. It's just, hey, let's shit out a story, but we'll use a property that some people have a lot of nostalgia for, and hopefully they'll check out our movie. So this is the worst remake, certainly, of the year. And, it could have been fun under the right writer, a rated R remake of Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, but what we got, not worth acknowledging, which most of you did your job in not doing so. And now at number 8, we kick off the Blumhouse Blunder trilogy of 2024. Coming at number 8 is going to be Imaginary. Of these 3 films, this is the one that I felt had the most potential. Also ended up being the most disappointing because of all of that. But when I look at the concept of these 3 movies, this is the one that I, at least, if you put a gun to my head and told me I had to rewatch one of them, this is the one that I would pick. If that's worth anything. Imaginary is a basically riff on Child's Play or Megan, where you have a little girl who really latches into this imaginary friend, and the imaginary friend is actually like some kind of a malevolent force and starts to do these nefarious things, and everybody won't believe her. They think that she's the one actually doing it. So not a very original concept as far as the setup of it, but what could have been original is kind of the window dressing of it and the payoff by the third act and this world of imagination and all the different monsters that are going to come out of it. But when you finally get to that, it feels like the movie totally ran out of money. And it's like, damn, Blumhouse, this could have been another one of your franchises you could have got at least 2 or 3 movies out of, but you didn't give them enough money to do anything cool with it. So you get to the world of imagination in the third act, and it's like, okay, this is where you could have made up for the last 2 acts, and you're just pissing me off even more. And so Imaginary just becomes one of those horror films, one of those movies that we used to see only in the month of January, but now we get a couple of them sprinkled throughout the entire calendar year. Coming in at number 7, we have Night Swim, the Blumhouse film about a haunted swimming pool. And as stupid of a premise that sounds, you have movies that have pulled off things like this in the past. If Mike Flanagan can make a great movie about a haunted mirror, I think you can have a movie about a haunted swimming pool and do something cool with it if you have the creativity and if you have the budget. Neither of which Blumhouse gave them. So you have a couple of really good actors here with Wyatt Russell and Carrie Condon. They are the reason to watch this if you decide to watch it. I don't know why you would. But aside from them doing all they can to rise this above what it ends up being, it's just a very generic PG-13 boring horror film about a haunted swimming pool. Could have been some interesting things done, could have had some creatures in there, could have had a whole portal to another world or something like Imaginary. There's ways you could have done something here, but it's the most boring version of what already sounded like a pretty boring premise. And wrapping up the trilogy at number 6, we have Afraid. This is the newest evil AI film, also by Blumhouse. You have John Cho in here, who I've always really enjoyed. And basically this movie is about an evil Alexa. You have John Cho that brings home this brand new AI that's going to integrate with the entire house and make life so much more wonderful and easy for everybody. And it starts to latch into the family and be overprotective and start doing a lot of evil things. Like you have the girl that's getting cyberbullied at school, and so the AI finds a way to kill the bully and things like that. Again, things that could have been done to make this interesting. Not that an evil AI is an original concept at all, so you need to do something to stand out. But this genuinely felt like they just had nothing. Like, as offensive as the last two were, this one was like, oh my God, you really did just kind of run out of ideas and run out of money and just decide to end the film, didn't you? So it ended up being a movie that when the credits roll, you actually feel like you wasted your time and especially your money. And yeah, not happy about that. Ends up on my bottom 10 because there's just nothing here. Coming in at number 5 is not only an example of yet another just awful holiday film, but another example of the hundreds that we seemingly get a year now of an awful straight to streaming movie, and that is Dear Santa. I had not heard of this film, but my wife brought it up to me because it stars Post Malone to some degree, and she's an absolute Post Malone fanatic. And so when I decided to watch it with her, I figured it probably wasn't going to be great, but I never figured this was going to be a film that was going to offend me on any level. And my God, was I in for a surprise. This is basically everything that you could possibly hate about straight-to-streaming movies and about bad holiday movies. You have Jack Black in here, who I love, and it takes a lot to make me not enjoy Jack Black. And damn, did they say hold my beer. He feels like he's given nothing. They just tell him to, hey, do the Jack Black thing for the entire script. Just, change your voice and act animated. We don't have anything else for you. And it's a premise where you have a kid who's dyslexic that's writing a letter to Santa, accidentally writes Satan. And so Jack Black shows up as Satan to offer this kid 3 wishes in exchange for his soul, which again is kind of the premise of Bedazzled, which is one of my favorite comedies of all time. So when that showed up to be the premise, I was like, hey, I'm sure I'm not going to love it like I do a Bedazzled, but this could be fun. And they just do nothing with this. First of all, I hate picking on child actors, but they're awful. Every single one of them in this movie is awful. The wishes that they're having this kid make, they don't really play it out in any kind of a comedic way, which is the only thing that you should do with that premise, is have like the monkey's paw effect where he wishes for something and he gets the worst version of it and the kid learns something from that. But they don't. Hey, I want to take a girl that I like to a Post Malone concert so that we can have Post Malone in the trailer. Cool. Granted. Hey, my friend's got really fake fucked up teeth, but I want him to have better fucked up teeth. Cool. Wish granted. Hey, my parents argue a lot, so I'd like them to not argue. Cool, wish granted. Does that sound fun? Because it's not. And then out of absolutely nowhere, in the third act of this movie, they try to turn this into like some kind of a gut-wrenching tearjerker, which is maybe the most like whiplash tonal shift I've ever seen in a film in the last number of years that I've been doing this. But they bring up this whole thing about this dead brother. And the main character has had this dead brother that we've never heard mentioned. They've given like very, very non-direct hints at it throughout the movie, but not enough where you could put the pieces together. And so suddenly the third act, it's all about the grief of this dead brother. And that's what makes the parents argue. And that's what makes him such a quiet, socially awkward kid. And you're like, where the fuck did this come from? What are you trying to get me to feel here? Because all I am is angry about the nonsense that you are putting on screen right now. And then they follow that through with ending the movie in just like a way that just makes me just want to hold that right there directly to everybody involved with this. And the people involved with this are the Farrelly brothers. Again, when I saw that in the opening credits, I went, wow, maybe this will be halfway decent. The guys that brought us Dumb and Dumber and Me, Myself, and Irene, and There's Something About Mary, like they're responsible for some of my favorite comedies of all time. Now, only one of them's directing, but the other one's writing, so they're still technically working together. This might be all right. It's by a landslide the worst thing that they have ever done. So yeah, this movie pretty much embodies all of the reasons why I don't bother wasting my time or effort or energy on the vast majority of streaming movies anymore. If something gets buzz, then I'll check it out. Until then, I act like it doesn't exist because it pretty much won't. As soon as people see it, talk about how bad it is or how forgettable it is, it just disappears into the ether. So when I do rank all 130 films that I saw last year, you're not going to see too many of them. But one of them you will see is Dear Santa, way the fuck down there at the bottom. Coming at number 4, we have The Strangers Chapter 1. And yeah, not a very promising start to a new trilogy, guys. What are we doing? So I am really not a big fan of The Strangers property to begin with. I have some fun with Prey at Night, but I've never been a fan of the original film. Sometimes that's a hot take. Sometimes people are like, please, God, thank you, somebody said it. I like the design of The Strangers. I like the approach of kind of having like this could happen to anybody. This feels real tone to the movies, but I always found the character decisions to be so maddeningly stupid that I just can't enjoy these movies very much. And my God, The Strangers Chapter 1 takes the cake and is by far the worst of the 3 we have gotten so far in that respect. Every single fucking decision that these characters make you want to reach into the screen, choke the fucking life out of them, and save the strangers the trouble. There's a scene well into the 3rd act where they know you are going to fucking die if you do not take these strangers out or escape these woods, where one of the main characters has a loaded shotgun, point blank range at the head of one of the fucking strangers and doesn't pull the trigger, just stands there and talks like a dumbass. You deserve to die. And I'll be damned if when they get to this town, every single person in this little fucked up podunk piece of backwoods gives them every reason in the world to get back into their car and get the fuck out of Dodge. I mean, staring at them, giving them weird looks, giving them shit for what food they order at the goddamn diner. I mean, my God, how many fucking hints do you need? Like, this is a hint and a half for your ass. You're sitting there trying to order food. They're giving you shit, treating you like the unwanted northern folk. You come out, your brand new vehicle mysteriously out of nowhere doesn't work, and fucking Joe and Bob back there sucking on goddamn tobacco, staring at you, telling you, we could fix it, but you had to go stay at the fucking cabin overnight. Gonna take a while. And the biggest thing that bums me out, like I would never have expected anything of worth from this, but it's made by Renny Harlin, who's a director who I've always been a huge fan of, and he's doing all 3 of these. Maybe there's a chance that Chapter 2 and Chapter 3 will at least be better. This one, for whatever reason, they decided to basically just soft remake the original film, which why you would do that, I don't know, but they actually made me think that maybe there would be something worthwhile here because Renny Harlin made it. And it's horrible. It's the worst Strangers movie yet. And we're getting 2 fucking more of them. God help me. Coming at number 3 is Tarot. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. It is possible that this movie is getting a little bit more of an ass kicking just because of when I saw it. I saw it after all of the horror films that I just got done talking about over the last 15 minutes. So needless to say, by the time I saw Tarot, my patience was pretty much fucking gone. And I had held out some hope because I hadn't seen a whole lot about it, hadn't heard any buzz, hadn't heard anything negative about it. Maybe it was going to be one of those little, at least mildly entertaining surprises. You know, tarot cards, doing something cool with that. Okay, fine. Let's see what you got. And this is basically The Bye-Bye Man, which is a movie that I think I gave 0 stars. Like, that's how much I hated it. It's The Bye-Bye Man with tarot cards. And it's PG-13. And every single one of the fucking kills are off-screen kills or cutaway kills, or they turn the camera and they just splatter blood on the wall. We're slasher fans. Why do you think we're here? It's like going to a fucking restaurant and you order the food and they bring you an empty plate and say, I'm sorry, did you want something else? So that's bad enough. You get none of the carnage candy. You get none of the payoff. I mean, they have a kind of a Final Destination type of tone here with these people dying by this curse. And you can't even have that bit of joy from this, which could have saved this dramatically. It would have easily gotten this out of the bottom 10, if nothing else, if we could have just seen some of the carnage. But they deny you all of that to make it PG-13, to try to trick other 12 and 13-year-olds to take their girlfriends from fucking junior high to go see this movie because they've never seen a horror film before. And I don't mean to insult anybody. If you love this, if this is one of your first experiences with horror, cool. I have a lot of hope that you're going to enjoy the rest of your horror journey much more as you explore the rest of the fucking genre. But this is a movie that just represents everything that I hate about cheap PG-13 horror. And I didn't like any of the characters. There's one character that survives for an indiscernible reason, that just because. So 25 minutes into this movie, when I realized all the writing was on the wall for what I was about to experience, I was just done. And so for a while, this was my bottom of the year. And it's only by the saving grace, does that even fit in this scenario, that two other films came out that was much worse. Coming in at number 2, a movie that I toyed with putting at number 1 just because I fucking despise everything that this movie's existence represents. But something I hate it even more, so we'll get there soon. Number 2 is going to be Madame Web. Yeah, Sony didn't have a good year, did they? Venom: The Last Dance, tolerable at best. If you like the Venom movies, there's some things to latch onto and be entertained by with that one. Craven just narrowly made it out of this top 10 only because there is some stupid, dumb fun to be had with the so bad that it's good quality of that film. That, yeah, it's literally number 11 if I was going to do a top 11. That's how close it was. But Madame Web, easily the worst Sony Spider-Man universe film by a landslide for me, which is a tall fucking order because there's some pretty bad ones. This movie is shocking with how incompetent it is. It's shocking with how ignorant the entire idea, the entire genesis of this movie is. Like, you're trying to make a universe based off of popular Spider-Man characters. Okay, keyword is popular. Who in the fuck was asking you to make a movie about Madame Web and 3 or 4 spider female variants? Who? I want names. Now, the original idea for this movie supposedly was going to be like a riff on the Terminator, where you have Peter Parker's mother is being hunted by this villain, and Madame Web, who is, clairvoyant and can see through time and space and all that shit, is essentially trying to be like the Kyle Reese, saving her from the impending doom. I don't know if that would have been good in and of itself, but that actually sounds like a halfway decent idea. What do you get here for a premise? You get Madame Web that starts to have powers, and she comes across 3 other people that are eventually going to be some spider chicks, and there's a guy that wants to kill them because he finds out that in the future they're going to defeat him. And so she's just putting them in the woods and pulling them out of a diner, and then goes to the jungle to try to figure out the answers to all of this, and is able to know like exactly where in the fucking vast rainforest where her mother was, and then spider people come down. Like, this is a movie that's prime for like a roast. You could go on for 2.5 hours about every single little tiny fucking detail. There's a backstory where her mother is searching for spiders in the Amazon, and the movie opens up with her and the guy that ends up being the villain, and she's like, "Oh, we've been out here for months searching for this spider. I don't know, maybe we should give up the search." And then he goes to like go have a sandwich, and as soon as he goes to open up his lunch, she's like, "I found it. I found the spider." And look, making a bad movie, there's tons of bad movies out there. It's a really hard fucking thing to do. It's very easy to make a bad movie. But a bad movie that cost this amount of money, and a bad movie that they marketed very disingenuously and dishonestly, putting the spider chicks forefront in the marketing when you literally see them in their costumes in a flashback for like all of 5 fucking seconds. Go fuck yourself, Sony. It's one thing to greenlight and give a bunch of money to a stupid idea. It's another thing to try to literally lie to your core audience and your fans to try to recoup that in a very dishonest way. And it's no secret why Craven absolutely ate shit at the box office after this, because after Morbius, followed by Madam Web, of you lying to us about the actual ties these movies have to Spider-Man and the overall spider lore, sorry. You ain't fooling me 3 times, bitch. I'm out. So yeah, the movie that represents corporate greed, studio ignorance, absolute imbeciles in suits making decisions of creative value that they seemingly have none, completely just tanking the credibility of your name and of your very popular and profitable franchise, and bringing down the entire genre of film while you're at it. Like, Sony's trifecta this year made us have what is probably the worst year for comic book films in at least 15 years, maybe 20. Congratulations. Hope you're proud of yourself. And speaking of I hope you're proud of yourself, my number 1 is The Mousetrap, a movie that I really did try to just completely ignore and not give any energy to whatsoever. But it came out, a lot of people were talking about it. I toyed with the notion of doing a review because I knew it would get a lot of views. I knew a lot of people were really wanting me to rip this thing apart, and I had absolutely zero fucking doubt that it would end up being that type of review. I had no faith in this. But after I watched it, I was like, you know what? Views be damned. This just isn't worth it. No, not today.
Here's a nice piece of shit.
And I genuinely toyed with acting like I didn't even watch it, not even including it in these end of the year rankings, but fuck it. We'll talk about it here. We'll talk about it at our in our horror ranking that I just released. Yeah, The Mousetrap. So we're in a bit of a trend right now in horror where Disney characters, old childhood characters from cartoons and things like that are falling into public domain, which means that there are no, or at least significantly less copyright laws restricting what you can do with them. So Winnie the Pooh did this a couple of years ago. Then we had Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, which kind of kicked off this trend. These guys have now plans to make like 5 or 6 other movies, and we'll see. They're getting better, so I have faith that maybe they're going to do something cool with it. But we got word like maybe in November or December of 2023 that Steamboat Willie, the variation of Mickey Mouse, was going to fall into public domain. Every single one of us was like, okay, let's count the seconds. Let's hold our breath until the Steamboat Willie horror film gets announced. And I'll be damned if January 1st, 2024 came and we didn't even make it till lunch before these fucking guys dropped a poster and an entire trailer showing that they had actually shot this movie and started producing it the summer previous to when this was going to fall into the public domain. And from get-go, you were just like, okay, there's no chance in hell that this has anything of worth. This is like even more egregious and cynical than Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 1. Which how that's possible is crazy.
How could they get any worse? Take a look around you, Ellen. We're at the threshold of hell.
And you watch this, and yeah, there's absolutely nothing here. There is nothing that I can understand you getting any kind of entertainment value with. Nothing. There's no kills that are worthwhile. Most of them are just like stabs, like barely even gore. One that actually has gore is so CGI'd that I don't even know if anybody can enjoy that one. This is not some kind of like demonic version of Steamboat Willie. It's a fucking security guard with a Mickey Mouse mask walking around and teleporting for reasons that they never give. I don't remember Mickey Mouse having teleportation powers. Where did that shit even come from? And one by one, hunting down a group of young actors who I have to assume is just like friends of the writer and the director and have no acting experience, because you have a extremely low expectations of acting quality with a movie like this, and somehow they fell about 10 stories below it. There's just nothing here. There is no creative value. There's no interesting things being done with the story. There's no carnage candy where like somebody's trying to show, hey, I have some cool ideas for kills. Unfortunately, I just had to wrap it in this bullshit Mickey Mouse skin, but look how cool the kills are. Nope, that's not fucking there. It was somebody that saw the success of Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey and said, let's try that. And luckily, it didn't really work out for them, because they didn't get to put this out in theaters. They didn't get to use the Fathom event thing and charge $20 for a movie that you should pay about 15 cents to see. They got some kind of a legal trouble, had to drop the title Mickey from what was originally Mickey's Mousetrap and just call it simply The Mousetrap. And this thing got dumped on VOD. And I was so relieved when I put this at the bottom of my ranking every horror film of 2024 that I had like 5 different comments say, I didn't even know that movie came out. Good, you shouldn't. I am all for people who have a creative drive, who have a love for movies or a love for horror, just like picking up a camera, getting together a few bucks and having fun and just making something one weekend with their friends. And that's kind of what feels like maybe was the genesis of this. But when you throw in just the cynical bullshit of let's make it Mickey Mouse themed for no other fucking reason other than maybe it'll produce controversy and we'll get a lot of money out of this that we don't deserve. But I take away all of that good faith and all that credit when it turns into a Mickey Mouse movie that has absolutely nothing of value in it. Not a good performance, not an interesting thing done with the story, not a cool kill, not a cool Mickey Mouse design. Nothing. So whereas I have now had a regained faith in the creative team that has done Winnie the Pooh because of who they are as people, and as well as their significantly better effort in Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2, and from what I'm hearing, an even better effort in Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare coming out soon. But if Mickey's Mousetrap, or excuse me, The Mousetrap, is what we're going to get from all of these other groups that are latching onto this with the fucking Popeye movies and everything else, this trend's going to die a very quick death. And if it doesn't, it is literally going to be the stain on horror as a genre for years to come. So The Mousetrap, easily by a landslide, despite the garbage in this list, the worst thing that I saw in 2024. So, and not a fun type of bad either. So do not take this as some kind of an exciting ring of endorsement to go check it out just as like an endurance test. It's not that type of movie. It is just worthless. So rounding out my bottom 10 of the year, the worst films that I saw in 2024, The Mousetrap. We still have the best of the year to get to tomorrow, and then in a couple of days, I will rank all 130 films that I watched in the calendar year of 2024. So like, share, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on that. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be.